Hello everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to be here today. I'm a visual artist based in Kinsale, County Cork. I do not see myself as a digital artist in the sense that my work does not originate from or inhabit the digital sphere. I used digital technologies throughout my process to create analogue works, and the digital informs how these works evolve. More on this later. Writing this paper has allowed me to mull over ideas of situationlessness, the self and representation. These ideas become theories like shifting sands, and like a scientist who makes discoveries, I have to constantly realign my entire way of thinking, seeing and describing based on those discoveries. Is it possible to be an artist in a world where everything is watching you as much as, or even more so, than you are watching it? The 1981 film Excalibur by John Boorman, filmed at Powerscourt Waterfall in County Wicklow, provides a wonderful analogy of what it's like to be an artist navigating digital technologies in the 21st century. A loss of situatedness leads me to wonder if I am the sword Excalibur embedded in the stone waiting to be released, to be plucked from the dilemma of the past so that a heroic potential can be realized and put to use, only to be broken, thrown into the depths of the lake, or in this case, the pool at the bottom of Powerscourt Waterfall, and lost, once more to be rescued and held on high by the Lady of the Lake. Art is the key to unlocking realities through the imagination, images creating an apophenia, making sense out of the noise. Painting has been a means of falling into our imaginations since the Stone Age, reminding us that experiencing is a creative act of imagination. In this paper, I will discuss ideas of representation and transformation in developing artwork through my practical and thinking processes as part of my Horizons project. Taking George Barrett's 18th century paintings of the view of Powerscourt Waterfall, he painted several versions. There is one in the National Gallery of Ireland in Dublin, and another in the Walker Art Gallery in Liverpool, as source material to create drawings and paintings and develop digital three-dimensional virtual landscapes, exploring a sense of dislocation and disorientation, a situationlessness created by a data-driven era. My father loved technology. We had an Atari computer in the 1970s. He always wanted the latest technological development, and when the computer game Pong came out in 1972, my mother had to persuade him to wait a year after it was released before buying it so that it would not be so expensive. I remember playing Pong and loving that you could move the little white bar up and down the black TV screen and cause the moving dot, the ball, to change its course like a game of table tennis. Up until then, the TV screen had been a fait accompli, a passive watching experience of Jackanory, Blue Peter and Wanderly Wagon. After Pong, this was changed forever. I got my first computer 20 years later in the 1990s and never lost the excitement that you could move things around on a virtual desktop with a mouse, creating virtual documents and images. It was like a new world and an alternate reality instantly available and manipulatable. The horizon was invented as a virtual horizon in the 1460s with the declaration of a stable and fixed ground in reality. The virtual horizon started to appear as a single point of perspective fixed in time and space in the paintings of Paolo Uccello during this time, as in here, The Hunt in the Forest, 1465 to 1470. Here it is shown with an overlaid perspective grid by UK artist Sarah Gillett. This visual horizon was a flattened, mathematical, homogeneous, infinite fiction with a one-eyed central viewpoint that enabled a doctrine of mastery, control and subjecthood, which led to a culture of domination that initiated the expulsion of Jews and Muslims from Spain and the exploration of the West Indies by Christopher Columbus, both in 1492. The horizon defined the visible and navigable world, privileging the viewer as the dominant force, enabling Western colonization, colonial expansion for capitalist gain, the slave trade, and settlement of Europeans all over the world. The erection of the Eiffel Tower in 1889 as a viewing platform from which to see the city of Paris laid out like a map on all sides created access to a new perspective of the world. This new perspective was as important a pivot point for human consciousness as NASA's Earthrise image of a prone planet Earth seen from the moon for the first time, floating jewel-like in an inky nothingness taken by William Anders, who died recently, on the Apollo 8 mission in 1968. Colonial expansion continues into space as the private corporate pussy paw reaches out, grabbing for a piece of the space pie in the form of SpaceX's Falcon 9 mission to Mars of this year. Our consciousness continues to evolve with technology and the militarization of the digital sphere through tracking and surveillance technologies, data mining, spy satellites and drones, hacking terrorism, and generative AI used for targeting and elimination, continuing the project of domination, destruction, and control. The consequences and horror of a neoliberal militarized reality are playing out in Ukraine and Gaza as we speak, where every type of personal horizon is obliterated through the weaponization of civilians. Spinning and lost, the horizon is dead, or at least deadly, particularly for the 4,000 sub-postmasters in the UK Post Office, 900 of whom were accused and criminalised falsely for embezzlement by their Horizon accounting software, the infallibility of which was prioritised over human reality. The horizon is also expensive, a home being out of reach for many, never mind a view. And Ireland has also become an unwilling horizon for many, as empty buildings are burned in an attempt to keep immigrants and refugees away. This is a picture of space by NASA of space rubbish around planet Earth from 2009. The confusion between ourselves and our surroundings is beautifully described by Hito Steyerl in her paper In Freefall, a thought experiment on vertical perspective, published by eFlux in 2011. She discusses the implications of the loss of the horizon and the disorientation this creates, leading to, open quotes, a prevailing condition of groundlessness, close quotes, the consequence of which must be a state of freefall for subjects and objects alike. Being in a state of freefall, she goes on to explain, is very hard to notice because everything around you is falling at the same rate as you are. This can lead to a feeling of weightlessness and stillness. Boundaries become blurred, time and space collapse. Pilots have reported that freefall can trigger a feeling of confusion between the self and the aircraft. While falling, people may sense themselves being things, while things may sense that they are people. Our relationship with seeing and experiencing is disrupted, creating a sense of groundlessness. This disorientation can make us susceptible to disinformation and misinformation, leading to a hollowing out of reality. As I sit in my garden, I feel my plants are watching me and waiting for my next move. As chemically resistant, seasonally confused vine weevils munch away on roots and leaves, leaving their patterns on the hidden and visible worlds. I wonder if their acts of random creation are not as justified as mine. Information harvested by social media, Amazon and Google give me the feeling I am being watched all the time. Algorithms know my next move before I do. This feeling of being constantly visible in an information overloaded nowhere that cannot truly know me leaves me in a constant state of wondering who or what I am. Am I the plant in my back garden, being eaten by the vine weevils themselves, the pot, Excalibur, the lady in the lake? Kate Boorman created, you can barely see it, well, which is appropriate. Kate Boorman created this first image of a black hole in 2019 when she rendered image images captured by the Event Horizon Telescope, a network of 8 linked radio telescopes across the planet. It shows a halo of dust and gas measuring 40 billion kilometres across and is 500 million trillion kilometres from Earth. The image was rendered by recovering underlying images from captured measurements and image noise from photographs of outer space. The possibility of discovering new and unimaginable entities through image generation models, artificial intelligence, and machine learning is a new zone of discovery beyond representation. Technology is also revolutionizing how digital cameras function and what is understood by a photographic image. Photographic images in the traditional representational paradigm are based on the idea of capturing something that is out there in the real world. This post-representational paradigm creates images based not on what is visible in the world, but on what the camera thinks the image should look like based on the data the camera has access to. Stored photographs in the camera, social media accounts, etc. The camera becomes the photographer, creating images based on a gamble related to our previous choices. Representation here is exposed as a kind of dark matter, an invisible sea of data heralding the death of the image and the visible world. Early work. You can't really see it, but it's kind of there. Well, it's an two panels of oil painting, and there's like reflections. I'm a conflicted painter, disenchanted by the corporatization of the art world, the power of property and value, the weight of history, context, politics, and ideas of authorship and aesthetics. My early work sought to dematerialize painting, turning it into a vision of colour as light. This became a meditation on surface. What you see here in this painting, Bearable Rules for Making a Painting from 1998, is the reflection of the viewer on the surface of the painting. I was haunted by the history and context of painting, which I felt every time I put brush to canvas. The original was painted in 1999 and is about representation and the commodification of art. It's the painting of 12 postcards I collected when visiting museums. I was interested in how commodification and reproduction had a levelling effect on artworks, and the idea of representation in the sense of something standing in for the original. I then moved on to thoughts about the dematerialization of the art object through the exhibitions Lumpy Art History in 2001 and The Top Half of the Hero in 2002, culminating in the Hunting Box Party in 2005, which you see here, where the artwork has become paraphernalia for a fictitious political party of hunting boxes. This is Lost Horizon, watercolour on paper, painted in 2019. It is after 4 paintings by the 19th century artist James Arthur O'Connor. Moonlit scene, in the Dargle country, oncoming storm, and figure in a landscape with waterfall. Each painting has been reduced to a line drawing and superimposed on top of each other. Painting for me involves an act of the loss of self. A situatedness demands a perspective, a ground upon which to stand, and being in free fall creates a positive non-self or loss of self. When I'm painting, I'm constantly swerving between a historicized sense of myself, my memories, the desire to outrun myself, and the desire to dissolve into the moment, a boundless motion of past, present, and future. The Horizons project was initiated in 2014 when my late partner, the poet Derek Mahon, asked me why I never painted horizontal lines in my early paintings of the 1990s. He would tease me, "Why didn't you paint horizontal stripes like horizons?" I knew I couldn't turn back time and start painting in the same style I had then. I wanted to bring the knowledge I had gained through my multimedia and installation works to this new body of work. Responding to the death of the image, the post-representational turn, and the loss of the visible world, I am full of contradictions. Since returning to painting in 2014, I use images from art historical sources and through digital processes render them unrecognizable. The paintings have become material objects created as points of light which obliquely reference the originals. These are the two different versions of the painting by George Barrett of the Powerscourt Waterfall. This is the National Gallery one in Ireland, and that's the version that's in Liverpool. I like to imagine waterfalls as time machines. If the flow was reversed, you could reverse time. George Barrett's paintings, A View of Powerscourt Waterfall, offer a unique opportunity for interrogation. He painted several versions of the same view, so the idea of representation is already complicated. He was a follower of Edmund Burke and a romantic, painting Arcadian landscapes for the pleasured classes, starting with observations of nature. The paintings hark back to a lush, pre-industrial, verdant landscape which is designed to overpower us. Reveling in the sublime, an uncontrollable, awe-inspiring force of nature that today we can only dream about in our bio-challenged, habitat-denuded, climate-changing reality, which is aching with, With its achingly beautiful contrasts and tones, these paintings speak of a nostalgia for an imagined landscape that never existed, like a time machine sending us back to an alternate reality, which is sometimes glimpsed from a horizon-challenged car windscreen in a thicket of briars and ferns by the side of the road, or on a shadowy autumn day with rain-drenched sunlit colours intensified under a rainbow. I made drawings from manipulated digital versions of the original paintings, 3 of which you can see here, by altering the parameters for detail and edge constraints in the cutout filter in Photoshop. I traced these versions as line drawings projected onto paper with an overhead projector. Layer by layer, they build up into a web of interlocking abstract lines. This drawing, Entangled Horizon 3, was created by tracing 12 layers of the adapted digital drawings, one on top of each other, turning them upside down and back to front as I went along. Layer by layer, the drawings build up into a web of interlocking abstract lines, reminding me of MRI or LiDAR scans. The myriad interlocking lines cross and recross each other, obliterating the original, creating something new, scrambling and rendering the image unrecognizable. Beyond reading in any fixed way, it becomes a moving mass of liminal suggestions resisting any single reading. A visual noise appears that suggests an apophema of not quite discernible images, faces, figures, labyrinthine landscapes with contours indicating the highs of peaks and the lows of valleys, shifting shadows appearing and disappearing in a present absence of spatial relations suggesting three-dimensional landscapes. Entangled Horizon 2 was created by tracing 6 of the digital images, offset to complicate the original. I decided to see if this drawing could be turned into a virtual 3D landscape. I enlisted the help of digital artist Daniel Murray, who you already heard speak today. He took me through the process, adapting this drawing so that Blender could create the virtual landscape. It had to be blurred so the computer could read the image and superimpose it onto a matrix framework of defined numerical parameters to create a nuanced virtual landscape of rolling hills. Like magic, it instantly appeared as a virtual digital world, flipping the horizon of the drawing from the vertical to the horizontal. A virtual, recognizable, imagined landscape of nowhere. I'm like a child again, with a feather in my hair, crouched in an imagined landscape of a nowhere place of mountain ranges, familiar and unfamiliar, an unending, shifting, possible, expanded cosmic universe. I use the same approach to making the framework which holds the colors in the paintings as I use in the drawings. Here you can see the process of painting one color at a time in Entangled Horizon, painted in watercolor on paper in 2024. Painting and styles associated with colouring books and painting by numbers undermine and disrupt ideas of authorship and mastery. I use a systematic approach. Rules are established to organise what colours will be used, where they will be placed, and how they will be painted to undermine any possibility of self-expression. Here, the colours are based on colour separations, cyan, magenta, and yellow, and their mixed variants of green, orange, and purple. I use a mechanical approach to painting so that I am like a one-eyed ambient robot crawling across the surface of the painting, eradicating any depth perception and diminishing aesthetic choices to chance encounters. The results are reminiscent of complex AI-generated camouflage designs where the image is hidden in visual noise, confusing perception with no focal point or representation to lock it into time and space. Almost finished. I have always loved exploring ideas about representation, how visual perception is like, open quotes, the perniciousness of language, which produces fictions, close quotes. I found this text highlighted by Derek in David Bergman's Berkeley Experimental Philosophy from 1997, while exploring his collection of books. We would discuss how language, including visual language, is inappropriate for expressing our experiences. The illusion of perception and the ephemeral, flickering experience of seeing is taken to another level with digital media. I remember when I was very young, seeing shapes flash past as we drove to school and trying to work out what I was looking at. Once I understood what it was, street furniture, for example, I could never unsee it. I could never see those abstract shapes again. The image of the object was fixed in my mind, understanding, evolving with looking and seeing. Writing this paper has helped me explore how our brain's thought processes situate us through representation as a necessity for understanding reality, and how problematic this is. Can we truly describe what is out there? Technological digital advances open new ways of understanding, discovering, and seeing reality, ushering in a post-representational turn that exposes a situationlessness at the heart of our perception. This requires us to realign ourselves to new modes of consciousness through our imaginations, opening up alternative ways of understanding our relationship with the world. Okay, and that's it. So thank you very much. And